This is my Walkera 2801 Pro transmitter. I will be going through my settings and I'll try to cover as much as I can, like a comprehensive, all the settings and switches and how I set mine up. I set it up in stunt mode, usually, and I like my stunt mode to be very similar to my normal mode, except for a couple of key differences. So I'll go over that. And I'll specifically be showing for the V400D02 by Walkera. I have 5 helicopters hooked up to this. The settings are generally similar for all of them as far as how you set it up and what you look for. I have 2 other Walkeras, the little CV100, the 4-channel, and then I have also the 6-channel V120D02 and a T-Rex 450 3GX that I also have hooked up to this receiver or transmitter right here. All you have to do to use this transmitter on some other helicopters, you have to get the little 2801 Pro receiver. It's the basic receiver, just to give yourself some. And if you can see that, it's hooked up there to the 3GX box. I think it'll work similar with other brands. It acts like an antenna. Alright, so the settings for my V400D02, you'll see I have already changed some stuff on this one, so I'll let you know in my settings when I'm going through it what might be different and why on yours. So the servos make a big difference on how certain things that you have to reverse or not reverse. I have here the futaba servos. They work pretty well. They're Metal Gear. Make sure you get Metal Gear. EXI and High Tech are 2 other ones for this specific helicopter that I know seem to be pretty popular and work pretty well. I've tried the EXI. They do okay, but they do go out after a while. The brushless motor, and I did have to turn my receiver around because of my servos and the gyros to make all the gyros work. The trick is with these flybarless, when you tilt, you have to look at your swash plate that it tilts the other direction. So if you tilt the helicopter one way, your swash plate should be trying to stay horizontal with the horizon, basically, horizontal with the ground. So I've already gone ahead and unplugged my motors and bound the helicopter and unplugged the rear motor, so that way I can show you some of these different settings with the helicopter on. Alright. The basic remote, the settings, you got these buttons down here, enter, exit. These navigate through your menus. You get into the menu just by pushing the enter button. This here is your timer. I'll show you how to set the amount of time, but it'll beep. I have mine set 5.5 minutes, so after 5.5 minutes it'll beep. You just got to remember to push it when you first start flying. So, right here, I have a Mode 2 controller or transmitter. I might call this a transmitter controller remote. I'm just talking about this general receiver or transmitter right here. This is my cyclic, and it has a spring in the center. This is my pitch and tail. I know some countries do it different. Most of the ones in the US will probably be this way. The very 2 top switches, this is your flight mode switch. So this is my normal mode. I spool up in that. I usually go to about right here. Then flip it into stunt mode. And I have these, the only 2 differences I have programmed between this one and this one is my amount of motor power. So sometimes, especially if it's windy, I like more motor power. And generally, I kind of like that anyway. But sometimes to conserve battery power, if I want longer flight time, I can use a little less. So that's how I have it set up. And you set up all that in your menus. You can do a lot of different things with that. These are your DR switches, and what I do is I try to keep them all the same just in case. Right now, I have no need to use a different DR for on the same helicopter, so I just leave it the same. And these as well, I try to leave the same. I might start messing with this gyro, and I might start messing with these a little bit because I'm kind of getting to the point where I'd like to maybe start a little bit with softer controls and then have, when I get my fingers warmed up after the first battery, it usually takes a little bit, then move on from there. But, alright, so to get into these settings, I'm going to go ahead and start at the bottom because there's a lot, and I'll work my way up because this one right here has a lot of different settings in it. The reset, basically that just resets, I think, to factory settings. I have never messed with that. Alarm, this is where you program the timer I was just talking about. The one that you push this button right here to start when you're on your normal screen. That one, don't just find out how much your batteries last, and you don't want to run your batteries all the way down. Plus, I like to give myself a little bit of time. So since they're 11.1 volt batteries, I run them down to about, usually if I take a reader to them afterwards, they're about 11.2, 11.3 volts. But that gives me time. I've been out or beeped and not forgotten, or it's too windy to land right away. So, so setting the timer, keep that in mind. This is the battery for the transmitter itself. It is also in here. I have an 11.1 volt 15C 1800 milliamp 3-cell LiPo that I'm using. I usually recharge at 11.1. I just have it start beeping if I accidentally go below 10.8. The buzzer, that's just how loud this beeping noise is. Active or inactive, that just turns it off. You'll see this inactive and active, or inhibited and inactive. I don't know exactly what those mean, but basically it's on or off. Off and on. So I'll turn this on so you can hear when I'm pushing the buttons. I usually leave it off because it's a little bit annoying. The display, that's just your LCD, how it looks. If it doesn't look right to you, you can see. You can turn off the light. Range test, I haven't messed with that. I assume it means something to do with you can actually hook your transmitter up and test how far you can go with it or something. I've gone very far. This 2.4 gigahertz systems, I've taken my 450 up, I don't know, high and far away to where it was a speck in the sky, and I had to go nose in and could see a little tiny speck, and just I knew it had to have been coming towards me. Eventually, it started getting bigger. I had no loss of signal, so it seems to do pretty good. I haven't bothered with the range test. Step, this one I read somewhere or heard somewhere when I first started that 5's a good place for this. All of my helicopters I have set up at 5. I haven't played with this. I have some idea what I might do, but I'm not even going to bother with that because I'm not too sure. So if you set them at 5, chances are you're going to be able to get your helicopter working, and kind of go from there. All right. The swash. This one is a little bit tricky, because my 450, both of my 450s, use this 3-servo 120 degree configuration, and you would think that the V400 DO2 would use the same, because the servos are set up relatively similar. Well, what happens on this one, see the 3 servos are all 120 degree, you think that's it. What happens on this one is this receiver already does some mixing for you or something like that. So it already knows, it takes the normal input or the old input and turns it into a new input. So you got to tell your transmitter actually that you're receiving the older input. And I worked on a helicopter, one of my colleagues that he got years back, was in a Line T-Rex one, the old 450. I think he got it about 9-10 years ago or something, he said. It had all all mechanical linkages and all the servos set up so that one servo controlled the aileron just the left to right, one controlled the pitch the elevator just the front to back, and one actually took the whole thing and went up and down, and all the servos were linked in, and this one was mounted in this one, and this whole thing moved, and it was quite a complex system. I assume that's what this one servo is talking about, but I'm not 100% sure on that one right there. So, you gotta play with it. If you're not sure, I know the V400 is this one servo, and the 2702V is this 3 servo. Let's see if it'll focus on that. So, there we go. All right. Can you see that? There we go. All right. Sorry about that. So that is your swash type. So the main trick is going to be that you need to make sure your swash moves in the right direction. When you move and your servos act correctly, see when I move this right to left, how the swash plate moves, tilts right to left and forward to back, it tilts forward to back. Well, your swash plate should tilt with respect to your cyclic control on these mode 2 controllers. That's the most important thing to double check. Alright. Exit out of that. We'll go to the input. This is just, what do you want these sticks to be? What do you want these to mean? So, I have them set up whatever they say on here. But you see you can change that to a couple of different things. They give you some choices. So, the stick, like I was mentioning earlier, stick mode 2, compatibility. This one here, if you can use 2801, go ahead and use it. Even though the V400 normally came with the 2603 transmitter, it can actually use the 2801 compatibility here. And you want to do that whenever you can, because I noticed the other ones, they limit your menu settings. And you don't have as much control over what you can change. The only one that I actually have to use something different is my my little CB100, and that has to use the 2401. That's the 4-channel. And that forces me to. It won't let me use the other ones. ID code here. The ID code I have set at random for this helicopter. I did have to program that one on my line because it was not binding quick enough, because it takes a little while to link. So I had to actually program a specific number in there, and then it binds quick. So if you just want it to bind quicker, or if you're at a field all the time and you want a specific number to make sure you don't accidentally link with somebody else's, if you're turning it on at the same time, you can set your own code, and then there's a way to set it to link it to your receiver, and something along the lines of just link it twice with the same code. It's pretty simple. I forgot exactly how to do that, but you can find that online. So if you want to set up a specific code, or if you get weird gyro issues with a different brand, like some of the tail gyros or the 3GX box, I know gives you problems with that, then you have to set this up. So yeah. Oops. Let's turn that off. Random enter. Okay, normally you have to push enter after every screen. Before you leave a screen, before you push exit, if you change something, push enter. If you push exit, it won't save it. So you can change stuff and push exit and you won't save it. That's what I've been doing. And I should mention, though, that if you do change something and you want to make sure it saves, push enter before you push exit out of one of these menus. The copy, the model, if I get a new helicopter, I'll take my old settings and I'll copy it over to the new model. And then that way it'll give you all those settings, and then you can go from there and modify what you need from there. But it gives you a base of what you like based on what your normal things are, which is nice. I assume receive and transmit means you can receive and transmit other people's settings from this same controller. I have never tried that. Trainer is a really neat one. I haven't used that one either, but you can hook a cable between yours and another person's, and actually, like, one's the master and one's the learner, and whoever the master is, let's say the learner's taking that up and then they get out of control or out of orientation, the trainer can just start moving his sticks, and as soon as he starts moving them, it automatically he takes over automatically and can correct the helicopter. So that's pretty cool. If you know some other people with this and you fly with them and they're really good, or maybe you're good and you're trying to help somebody else, that might be a neat one to use. I haven't tried it. The model select. This one, you just pick. I have, like I mentioned earlier, these are all my helicopters programmed in there. And the Steve copter, which was my colleague's, his name was Steve, so I was messing around with that for a while. That's it there. You can pick which one, hit enter, and you'll link with your other helicopter, and you'll have all your other settings. Name. This is just how to rename these. So if I moved one to Model 6, I don't want to call Model 6. I just go in there and fool around with the name, and you got to kind of just go through and hit enter and to name it. So it's the long way around. It's like beep, beep, beep for all the numbers and letters and stuff. But not a big deal. You only do that once usually. All right, type. Helicopter, airplane. I think that's just for the picture on the front. Maybe for your settings. Model set. Okay, this one I will get in. I'm going to go ahead and make this a two-part thing because this is another long one. And this video is getting long. I'm not sure how long they let me upload videos. So I will go ahead and make this a two-part. I think I pretty much covered everything outside of this one right here. So if there are any questions about those, let me know. I'll answer what I can. Some of the things, like I mentioned, I'm limited, so in my knowledge. But all right. So thanks for watching, and I'll be back shortly for the second half.